Hi there, listeners. It's Rob here from the Better SMB Podcast. Hey, this is a short episode this time. It is the first recorded ep that we've done in 2025. So David and I are sharing our plans for the year, our big goals, like getting a sponsor or three, and guest speakers. We've even mentioned a few names, but don't panic. There are still some nuggets to take away and use in your business through the episode. Have a listen. Let us know if there are any other topics you want us to cover over the year. Speakers you can hook us up with because, hey, it's New Zealand and it's 1.5 degrees of separation. So surely there are some good connections out there. Anyway, don't forget to like, subscribe, and do all the admin stuff. Let's get into 2025. On with the podcast.
Welcome back to the Better SMB. I'm David Altena.
And I'm Rob Bull.
Welcome to 2025. So this is actually our first recorded episode for the year. The episode we released with Anthony McMahon on tech was actually recorded last year. So we wanted to start the year looking back to look forward. And I know on your side, Rob, a big part of what you like to do is reflect on things and then start putting a plan in place around where you're wanting to go, or actually think about where you're wanting to go and then put a plan in place to get there. So, I mean, this whole thing started with you and I off the back of me interviewing you as a part of my MBA. And, for me, it went from an idea and we've given it a go. We're 11 episodes recorded and released. Me personally, I had a hell of a time going, man, a podcast? What? You've got to be nuts. Imposter syndrome. Who am I to be doing a podcast and all this sort of thing? These are some of the things that kind of were running through my head when we were starting this. How about you?
Yeah, well, I think I had a different vision in mind, and then you mentioned podcasts, so I thought, hey, why not? And certainly, 12 months on and 11 episodes, as you said, it's been really interesting for those who have listened and the people that we know directly, and the feedback and going, actually, this is really interesting, because I think we've stuck to our knitting on the most. We've also had some really interesting guests, but in terms of just giving ourselves a platform to talk shit about what we're passionate about, which is small and medium businesses in New Zealand doing as well as they can. And can we lift that whole productivity thing? And what does that mean? And making it meaningful. Because we've solved the world about 3 or 4 times in those 11 episodes. So I think it's about keep talking about the same stuff, and hopefully the different types of conversations will resonate with different people who pick it up and listen. So we all learn differently. So it might be one of the guests that just happen to say stuff, or something that we've said, but just in a slightly different way. That might be the penny that drops and helps a business owner out there. So yeah, it's been a fun ride. I wouldn't have thought that we would have had such a good conversation. So I know Kate, my partner, she listened to it by accident late last year for the first time, and yeah, she turned around and went, actually, you guys are quite interesting. So hey, who knows?
Does she think that you might be a bit smarter than she thought you were?
Well, that's another conversation for another day, but I think it's change, right? What we're doing, and this is what I'm really passionate about, right, is if you go through a good, solid change process in your business or anything that you do, you have to keep repeating that same message. You might change up the words, you might change the way you say it or when you say it and all of that kind of stuff, but that true north has got to always stay robust and stay the same. And that's what we've done. And I know you've got the numbers in front of you, but it seems to be slowly taking a bit of traction, which is always interesting, that people think we do have something useful to say.
Yeah, Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not surprised. Real close to 85% of the people who have listened to us are based in New Zealand. The thing that has surprised me is almost 10% are based in the United States.
Are
And
they
then,
living in hope? Are they living in hope and just listening to some really good balanced conversations? Maybe I don't know. But that might be my cynical political hat coming on at the moment.
yep, absolutely. And then our mates there over on the West Island in Australia, they're coming in 2.1%. So yeah, third place, but room for improvement. Room for improvement. It's good.
Always, always,
Um,
always improving.
I tell you what though, like when we were, I think it was episode 2 where we did productivity reports, and
Is that still
and
the
then
highest?
it's still the highest. Yeah. So it was the most
Brilliant.
listened
I love
to
it.
episode, and the thing that just absolutely blew me away was when the marketing manager from Xero reached out to us,
I was wondering if you're
and
going to
she
mention
was
that because we haven't mentioned that to anyone yet, publicly.
not sure we might have,
But no,
might not
I
have,
was
but
thrilled. Tip my hat to Xero that they did respond to us absolutely ripping their reports apart.
yeah. Absolutely. And what was great was it was actually, I believe it was one of her friends who sent the podcast to her and said, "Hey, you should have a listen to this."
Yep. Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Which we do
word of
need.
mouth.
Yeah, we do need to take them up on the offer and get someone from Xero on.
Yeah. And so that was one surprising thing. And then the other one is that I actually ended up doing a little bit of advisory work with one of our big banks as well. So that actually came from episode 4.
Which one was that?
So it's a yellow bank.
See, I'm waiting for my little, when's lightning going to strike for me? Because you've done well out of this. You've got a profile in Xero now. Did we name the bank that you were working with? Are we there?
Well, it's yellow. So, I mean, there's not too many that are yellow, right?
No,
You could
no.
do, yeah.
Yeah, and that's awesome. I think the fact that people are listening, it does make sense. It does resonate with a few. I just want to, over 2025, I still got to get used to saying that. Increase that, making sure that what we're talking about is the right topics for people.
Yep.
Making sure that the research that we do is useful for those small and medium business owners. And, on a serious note, after taking all of your gratuities away, but on a serious note, is if people do have a subject, if they do have kind of a topic around this performance, excellence, productivity space, and they're going, oh, I heard this, what does that mean for me? We can be found on LinkedIn, particularly. Send us a message. We want to hear those questions so we can do the research and help provide some real life practical translating all the jargon stuff so it's useful, so it helps New Zealand business, helps New Zealand Inc. get that little bit better.
Absolutely. So I thought it was probably quite a good idea to maybe not get too formal with this, because I mean, we typically record these on a Sunday evening over a beer, sitting on Teams, but having this kind of North Star, right, is kind of important because we're 11 episodes in. Looking ahead, we're going to keep recording episodes. We want to be speaking to more people, so we want to have something that we're aiming at. And I mean, for me, vision, I kind of treat as something that you may never actually get there, and it's aspirational, something that you're aiming for, but it makes the journey you're on worthwhile.
Yep.
And it kind of helps you dream about, well, what if something big did happen, or what if those two things fell in my favor? And we talked about this before we hit record, but what we're looking to be is the go-to voice for small and medium business owners and leaders in New Zealand, perhaps Australia and the US as well, but we'll just focus on New Zealand for the moment, and help them build high-performing, sustainable businesses. But really, we want to demystify the jargon that we all hear in the business space and inspire people listening to this to actually take action. Why is that important to you, Rob?
Why is this important to us? Just because we could be doing so much better. We look, we almost, maybe it's since New Zealand sort of colonization and onwards, is we always put ourselves as a poor cousin. We're at the bottom of the world. All of these things are against us, which now in such a small, tight-knitted, easily accessible world that we live in, that we can do so much better. Like, I can rip off all the stats. We're in the lowest quartile for productivity. We're, you said, 1% of our GDP is spent in R&D, which is, again, in the lowest quartile. All of these things, but we can be so much better. We have all of these little shining lights that blip up around some of the successes that come out of this country, but there's a glaring gap between those top 1% companies that take all the limelight and that top third, that top half of New Zealand SMEs. And we need to get those businesses working just 10 or 20% better, and everything else, this is very altruistic, but everything else will start taking care of itself. We will have money to spend on our roads and our rails, and we will get that fast speed train between Hamilton, Tauranga and Auckland. But at the moment, because we earn such a little amount per people that work, we don't generate them, the money. And we know, this goes back to my health days, we know that if we're all earning a lot more per head of population, our health is better. And if our health is better, then we're working better. And it's an upward spiral. Whereas I think in the last 40 years, we really haven't made jack of a difference in any of that space. So to me, that's why it matters, right?
Yeah. And the interesting thing is the more productive we are, the more we earn. The more we earn, the more we pay in tax.
Yep.
The more we pay in tax, the better off our government is, and the more money they have to be able to invest into health services, education. Whatever, all research and development, and all that sort of thing, right? So the productivity subject is a singular thing that can actually flow into all these other areas and provide just a huge amount of value across New Zealand. So speaking of politicians, I went to the opening of the Microsoft data center, where the Honourable Judith Collins actually came along and opened that up. And she talked about something really, really interesting about how that the investment Microsoft have made in New Zealand with that data center actually enables us to start taking advantage of one of New Zealand's biggest advantages, which is our distance from markets. So imagine if all of your data can be in New Zealand, away from Europe, which is a market that if you affect one country might affect a whole bunch of other countries, right? So kind of turning the trade thing on its head and going, well, what are things that we can start using as an advantage for us? We have a cooler climate, therefore if you're going to operate a data center, you've got to pay less in cooling, all these other kinds of things, and what doors those open. So when you start thinking about it at a high level, there's quite a lot of other opportunities that can come past. Now, I threw out the Minister Collins' name there, but if we think about the vision, hey, maybe if we think about our vision, if we think about the path where we want to be on, imagine if next year we were able to interview people as a part of the election cycle.
Leaders debate.
A
virtual leaders debate around productivity. What does that mean, and how do we get that meaningful to small and medium business owners in New Zealand? Because even what we've talked about now already, it's just like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't hit, how does that change Tuesday at 10:30, what a business is doing in the industrial park in Hamilton, or what's happening in the back in Christchurch. So I just really want to get leaders debate going. I shared actually on that. I shared with my local MP because I've gnawed his ear already in 2025 around productivity and how all the actions that they're doing is actually kicking us further away from those goals. And I shared with him a document that I did for the last election, which was all the business policies of all the parties and how none of them had anything written publicly anyway for the SME market and productivity.
I spoke to a previous government minister the other week. Might not have told you about this actually. I won't name them, but they said, "Oh, productivity. Oh, we just need to solve that by getting foreign direct investment." So,
and and also, shall we go in the 30-second gripe mode?
Go.
How National were patting themselves on the back in the last week by increasing road speeds and saying that that's going to help productivity. That is a load of bollocks. As I've said to one particular minister, is that might help me get from Hamilton to Tauranga 15 minutes quicker, right? Do I have to wait for that hour and a half of that travel to actually make a phone call because our cellular coverage means I can't actually do business for that hour and a half? Oh, now it's an hour and 15, but it still means it's an hour out of my life that I can't do business. So speeding up roads, if anyone calls it improving New Zealand productivity, they don't get it. Anyway, that's my quick rant because that's not our vision. That's not setting our goals. So we want to get government leaders by next general election, even maybe a couple of local elections coming up at the end of this year. That might be a litmus test of seeing how at a smaller scale how that's working. Like, we've had some really good guests, right? We've had Anthony, who was our last guest on. Anthony McMahon did a wonderful job. And I think even Anthony was surprised himself when he listened back to the episode around IT and that whole Industry 4 stuff. Sean Wallace around local government and Flowingly and what they were doing to smooth off processes. And obviously it talks right to my DNA. Grant Johnson was this. I love that guy. He's just such a humble guy that's creating, along with his team, a massive, massive success story, based out of Cambridge, and they are matching what some of the world leading techs are with, Rocket Spark and the website building and all of that kind of stuff.
I've got
and then,
pages
of course,
and pages
Simon
of
Walker,
notes.
who wants to build trains from here to Dublin.
Just sidebar, episode idea. We should try and crowdfund a train. Anyway.
High speed train between Tauranga and Hamilton and Auckland.
Hey man, there's these two things and they're like, I don't know, shoulder width apart. And they're big rail things. And they go from downtown Tauranga all the way to Auckland. Did you know? And there used to be a train that ran on them. So it's possible. We just need a train. Anyway, again, we digress.
We digress. So is there anyone apart from the political leaders that we're going to get on for the debate next year? Is there anyone else that's...
Putting me on the spot, aren't you?
I am putting you... Well, I'll save you. You can start thinking. You can go and Google while I talk, because the guests that I did have, very much male pale style, right? Sorry, boys, but I think we need a lot more diverse. I would be interested and curious to hear a lot more diverse conversations. So people like Brooke Roberts from Sharesies. If any of your listeners know Brooke, get her to contact us, because I reckon that, again, that's probably similar to Rocket Spark. A pretty cool success story. Carmen Visilic, amazing. If you just follow her on socials, just what she is doing, based out of New Zealand. Absolutely smashing it. Kendall Flutie, banker, financial literacy programs for teenagers and just building, that's R&D, but also talking about our future and what does that look like, our future people, that would be awesome. And a Kirsten from Zero. So we do need to maybe follow up our Zero contacts around this. But yeah, any really good business owner, leader that is smashing it out there, bit of more diverse guests, happy to be messaged, happy to be challenged, and have connections or introductions done.
Absolutely. And even getting like a different cultural perspective, right? From the Māori people, they've got this great view, and I really love it, where you're actually thinking, you're not thinking about what are we doing next quarter, what's our results going to be for the year, and this sort of thing. They're thinking about what are my grandchildren's children's children going to inherit, right? So that worldview is just crazy. So I've got a few people, I won't name them, that I'm thinking of that could be quite interesting to get on as well, to kind of bring that aspect to life.
Absolutely. And I go back to also, some of the episodes we can do. I'm sure we'll have a couple of episodes this year that will be a bit of ranting and raving going on. But I think I'd love to hear some questions so we can almost, just that ask us anything type episode, right? Throw it to us. Try and give us a curveball. What does this mean to me? And throw a sort of scenario. And so we can help sort of, if it means doing research, cool, I'm happy to do that. If it means that we can just help translate all that jargon, all of that political BS and all of that and making it meaningful, I think it'll be great.
If we now turn the microscope on ourselves, if we think about our primary measure of productivity, what is it that we're producing? Now, bearing in mind, this is a labor of love at the moment. We are just doing this because it's something that we are both incredibly passionate about from the different angles that we're looking at. But, for me, episode production for me is what I believe is our primary measure of productivity, or as Seth Godin would say, we're shipping it, right? Getting episodes out the door. And we've got a little bit of a goal of doing 20 this year. So this is number one. We can't count the one with Anthony because we did that last year. So you had some thoughts around that, because if I guess we kind of both agreed that can be our primary measure, but actually there's a few other things we need to think about if that's the case. What were those?
Yeah, and I think this is, again, one of the horses in my stable around hobby horses is measures. And a lot of people talk of KPIs, and one, they always misinterpret what a KPI actually is. But I talk lead and lag measures because it's all about quality first, which should then take care of the lag or the outcomes, right? So for me, certainly consistency, and that goes on that regular cadence. To do 20, we need to do say 2 a month, and have a couple up our sleeves. So that's cool. So that's our consistency. Are we doing that? Are we doing a recording every fortnight? That's one lead measure. The other one around quality is relatable topics, and this will only come from leader feedback or listener feedback. What is it? Reader feedback. Listener feedback around are we hitting the right topics? Are we asking the right questions and getting that information out there? So that those quality relatable topics, that's another lead measure. And the last one is usable content. And that's, I guess, our reflection on every episode is, was there a nugget or 3 in every episode that someone could pick up and apply in their business tomorrow to help them just become a better business, a better leader, anything in that realm, right? So those are my 3 lead measures. And if we do that well, our 2 lag measures, because I always think lead measures we need more of and less of lag measures. But lag measures, because we're doing such a good job, the number of plays, the number of followers will increase. So that they're our ultimate outcome measure.
Well, and there's the other one as well, that sponsor we want to get.
Well, definitely the sponsors, if we're hitting right, well, that comes with the number of followers and number of plays and all of that kind of stuff. So if all of that is trending because we're doing those, we're focused on those lead measures, then the ultimate is someone like a major bank or industry or whatever it is chucks us a few coinage so we can do this
company, SaaS provider, just putting some ideas
accounting
out there.
firms, who else? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Accounting software, accounting firms. Hey, Big Four, come and talk to us. We might teach you something.
I like it. So that's sort of pretty good, right? So we've taken our one kind of big hero thing that if we had staff and all that sort of thing, we could be thinking about that one big hero metric. And then we'd have some other measures that other parts of our operation could be focused on. The guest pipeline, so that we can maintain consistency, scheduling and the recording dates, having a list of topics and growing that out based on what's current events and so forth, actually going back over the episodes and pulling out the pieces of content that are usable, right? So now we start to see how that one measure flows through to the rest of the business.
And all good, let's do a learning nugget right now. All good businesses, if you're taking care of your lead measures, and that's all your in-process, in-house quality measures, it should lead to that big hero metric and those lag metrics. Take care of the in-process stuff, and the rest, you build it, it will come.
I like it. And it sort of shows how everything flows from that vision, that measure, and everything starts to ripple out from that. So, because we're still in that kind of labor of love space, and we're not, we haven't secured that sponsor yet. However, that's one of our goals for this year. Reach out to us if you're interested. We don't really have somewhat of a business plan per se, but what we do have behind the scenes is like every good, I guess we're not quite a startup, but we'll call ourselves that. We've got a spreadsheet behind the scenes that we're using for content planning and all this sort of thing. So that becomes the start of us formalizing how we're doing the different activities to pull all the content and so forth together for this.
Absolutely. And and those who have listened to this podcast already for a lot, but you definitely know you don't need to overthink this. You don't need the 25-page plan. Plans can be scribbled down on a one piece of paper. I started my business with an A4 and a few scribbled notes. Then you mature it. Then it goes through that plan, do, check, act, that Deming cycle. And it's okay to get it smarter and smarter over time, but also don't go too smart that it just gets really confusing and complex. Keep it simple, and I love it how we're doing it. We're kind of building the airplane as we're starting to take off and fly, right? Because if we have the blueprints and if we try and build it from scratch and we don't know if it works and all that, you'll never get off. So it's kind of taking that agile mindset as well. Get that minimum viable product, get it out, get it started, and I guess community will tell us what we're talking about.
See what happens. So we haven't boiled the ocean coming up with this. I spent about 40 minutes typing out something into some notes on my phone while I was away camping over the anniversary weekend in the Bay of Plenty. Fired that to Rob. Rob had a bit of a look, and I think we spent maybe 20, 30 minutes discussing prior to recording this episode. So all up, we might be 2 hours into this. I've got the basics of what we've talked about sitting inside a Word document that I can now copy and paste out, and that becomes the start of what our overarching mission, vision, purpose, and loose plan on how we're heading in that direction is and what our key measures are. So take a bit of time. Have a listen to what we've done here and think about what that would look like for your business.
And I think the important thing is then get someone or people or a team, we'll keep each other accountable to this, right? We'll do updates every 2 to 3-ish months, right? And that's building that external accountability. If you're doing this and you're a single business owner with a small team, build some accountability and share it with people who will kick your butt if you're procrastinating or you're making excuses or whatever, or it's all too hard or something's happened. Just build that accountability.
Great. So thanks for listening to the Better SMB. I'm David Altena.
And I'm Rob Bull.
See you next episode.